Hi everyone, welcome to CryptoBazar chat room, and today we are having a very interesting conversation with Peter Abila from ThunderCore. Peter, thank you very much for your time. We kept you a little bit away from sleep. Hope you're still holding on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. So, well, we always ask this question from the very beginning. Where are you based physically now? Because blockchain is so spread out, across the world. So usually it's different time zones now, right?
That's right. So ThunderCore, our headquarters is based in Sunnyvale, California, but
Okay.
we also have an office with about 20 employees in Taiwan, and also a couple of employees that are remote. I'm physically in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I travel. But yeah, you're right. I mean, blockchain it's decentralized, so we're all over the place.
Cool. Cool. All right. So, yeah, probably an answering question as well. It's always interesting to know. The personal stories behind everybody who's presenting this or that project. How did you come to blockchain? What happens and why did you come here at all? In general.
No, that's a great question. I love these origin questions. I've been in tech for a long time. I started my career out at Amazon when the stock price was only $15. So
Wow.
yeah, I was at Amazon really, really early on. Since then, I've kind of bounced around with the enterprise space, did some consulting, and then around 2016, I got into the whole Bitcoin thing, but really forgot about it until late 2016. And then I started becoming active in some projects. And then 2017 happened, and I became very active in several communities and began helping other projects in the space. And just really love the camaraderie and kind of like the feeling of being part of something new, and being able to make a difference in some of these projects. And and became an advisor to several projects in the space. And then I joined Mainframe in 2018, and then most recently left Mainframe to join ThunderCore. I love the blockchain space. It's a very new industry. Um, it's so new, in fact, that most of the people in it, and I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. It's the space is definitely one of its kind. It's very very dispersed, right? Across the world, but it's very tiny. You definitely pretty much if you do your things right there, you usually know the people who are moving this industry forward. That's very exciting, of course. So
Yeah.
yeah, so tell us a couple of words about ThunderCore, at least for those who are probably watching us for the first time. Shortly, for those who would be not very techie in a way, what is it all about, and why are you guys so hot?
Sure. ThunderCore is a proof of stake blockchain. It was founded by Chris Wang, who has a PhD from Carnegie Mellon, and also Elaine Shi, who is a professor at Cornell University. Chris Wang, his background, he went into industry after his PhD. He first worked at Google, and then he later founded Playdome, which at one point had 700,000 daily active users per day. It was a
Wow,
gaming company. He then
nice.
sold that to Disney, and Elaine went the theoretical route, where she became a professor, associate professor at Cornell, and they came back together later, when Elaine came up with some very novel ideas around consensus, and they together created ThunderCore. ThunderCore is unique in a lot of ways. It's a proof of stake blockchain, but the way it does its consensus mechanism is quite unique in that it uses what's called a fast path and also a slow chain.
Hmm.
Uh, and there's a lot of technicalities that I'm still trying to understand. But I've read like the white paper so many times, and it's like, it's really cool what they've come up with.
Right.
But in the simplest terms, um, the consensus mechanism is decoupled from everything else. And so what that means is that we can be the fast path, and then we can use almost any blockchain as a slow path. And what the slow path is, it's not a phrase that's derogatory in any way. Think of it as like because we are a new blockchain, consumers or users may not know much about us, but they know a lot about Ethereum. And so it can be almost like an insurance policy. Think of it as like like an auto company that comes into a new market. They provide 10-year warranties, let's say. But they understand that their cars are reliable, but the consumer doesn't know that they're reliable, and so they provide these warranties to create some confidence in the marketplace. And that's exactly what the way ThunderCore is structured, is that we have our own consensus mechanism, yet we provide a slow path that so that consumers can feel confidence in the blockchain. And it's temporary in that they don't have to use it, but if they want to, they can, so that until they gain more confidence. And so that's kind of one of the partnering with another blockchain is exactly kind of the one of the very unique aspects of ThunderCore.
Right, right. Wow, interesting, interesting. So, I mean, there's so many projects, there's so many protocols right now in the space. I'm sure you're well aware of this. Who would you consider as your competitors in the sphere at the moment? And on the one hand, and on the other hand, who are your potential clients or maybe current clients as well?
Sure. One thing I failed to mention is that ThunderCore, we're Ethereum virtual machine compatible, so
Okay.
EVM compatible, and so we are really cut from the same cloth as Ethereum. We are on the one hand, I consider Ethereum as a competing blockchain, but we're also very collaborative with the Ethereum community. In fact, we are sponsors of ETH New York, which is coming up,
All right.
ETH Boston, and also ETH Waterloo, and we really want to create great dialogue with the Ethereum community and not really compete. We want to collaborate, um, and also give developers a choice. Developers. There are some use cases for which Ethereum is a good choice, and there's other use cases for which it's not. And we want to be part of those conversations. And so Ethereum is one, EOS as well as Tron, and other blockchains that are where scalability is scalability is one of our key kind of key differentiators. We through TPS on ThunderCore is 1,200 transactions per second,
Yeah, that's
and so
massive. Yeah.
any use case that requires that type of scalability is perfect for us. And any other blockchain that claims high scalability would probably be a competing one for us.
Okay. Okay, I see. So, yeah, in terms of the competitive landscape, if we could name it this way, it's quite understandable now. So, as for the potential clients, are they the ones that are coming originally from where your founders are from, so the gaming industry, or it's a little bit more diverse? Do you focus on something more now?
That's a great question. Right now, my focus is really to create a developer community and to identify the kinds of use cases that make sense for ThunderCore.
Okay.
And you're right. Gaming is in Chris Wang's blood, and it turns out that ThunderCore is a perfect blockchain for the high throughput requirements of games and gambling. And so I'm spending a lot of time with gaming studios and also with developers in the gaming space to help them see the benefits of building their DApp on top of ThunderCore. Gas costs are very cheap.
Right.
Throughput is very high, so scalability is not an issue for games. And so I'm trying to spend a lot of time with gaming developers to help them understand that and to help them onboard onto ThunderCore.
All right. All right. So, yeah, if we go a little bit deeper into the gaming industry, it looks like it's kind of it's a huge piece of the world now, right? I mean, it's big industry. There's lots of players. There's the industry leaders. There's also the outsourced guys, tiny guys who are trying to make it there. So the question here is, who exactly do you target there? So individual developers who are trying to build some of their own applications, small new games probably, and that's question number one. The second question is, what is it is exactly that they would get from ThunderCore as a benefit? If they built on your platform versus just building it on other SDKs, for example.
No, that's a great question. As I mentioned, ThunderCore is EVM compatible. What that means is that if you have a dApp that you've built on Ethereum or a dApp that you've built on Tron, you could easily port it over to ThunderCore.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, we've done a number of tests. We did this with smart contracts from CryptoKitties, Augur, Decentraland, Zeppelin, and within 10 to 20 minutes, we're able to port their smart contracts over with 100% compatibility.
Wow,
and we did this
beautiful.
test just several months ago, and with much higher performance because of the high throughput that ThunderCore has. And so if you're a dApp developer that you've already built some dApps on any blockchain that's a fork of Ethereum, then on Ethereum or a fork of Ethereum like Tron, you could easily port it over to ThunderCore with no problem.
Right.
Now, as I mentioned, because Chris Wang's background in founding Playdome, he understands, they had 700,000 plus daily active users.
Yeah,
He knows
massive. That's massive.
it is excellent. He understands how to acquire customers. And so that's one of the key differentiators I think that we can bring to developers, is that not only will it be easy for you to bring your dApp over to ThunderCore, but we will help you create a business. We'll help you acquire users. We'll help you make sure that your users have a great experience. Gas costs is not trivial. But the benefit with ThunderCore is that the gas costs are super cheap. And we will help your users have a great experience by doing promotions like giving them free gas, for example, so that they don't have to worry about that. We are very focused on making sure that developers, gaming studios are supported and feel like they can be successful on top of ThunderCore. If you look at other dApps on other blockchains right now, there are several dApps, for example, on Ethereum, for which there are very few users. We don't want that. We want, if you're going to build on top of ThunderCore, we will give you the support you need, and we want you to be successful, have lots of users, and we will make sure that we help you.
Isn't it a bit of a catch-22 situation here, though? So on the one hand, for example, you have your developers, right, who are trying to build something, a game, right, that probably non-existent so far, just in general. So, and then you have this choice to make, right, whether you use a blockchain infrastructure to actually launch it for the first time in your life, and then incur all the costs for the transaction, purposes, right, the gas or whatever else it is. And that cost is, built within, right? So it's something that it's very difficult for you to manage, because if Ethereum grows, the costs may grow, and so on and so forth. But then on the other hand, you go this way because you hope that this protocol or this infrastructure community can help you acquire customers faster and cheaper probably than doing it traditional way. So is this is this a problem usually for the developers to actually come across this this choice, right? Rather to jump on top of some protocol, understand that, okay, with this protocol I will have running costs of a monthly or daily transaction, fees, whatever else, with something that I still don't know whether I would acquire users or not, versus just building it on, not on blockchain, on some centralized database and so on.
Yeah, that's why it's really important that developers understand their options.
Hmm.
Some games don't require blockchain. In fact, many games do.
Okay.
But there are some games for which a blockchain could make sense. If you look at NFTs, for example, you know, the whole idea of a non-fungible asset only exists because there is a blockchain. And so if you have a game where you have unique assets that are tied to a specific address, that would be really good. So one example is, if you have a real estate, or if you create a unique sword or a shield, and you'd like to be able to bring the same shield that you created in one game to another game, that would be very unique.
Right.
Um, and that's a use case that blockchain makes available. But on a centralized database, you can't do something like that.
Mhm.
And so, we're pragmatic in the sense that, not every game or every dApp requires a blockchain, but there are some where it could be beneficial. Let's focus on those. And
Right.
so that's kind of what we want to help developers understand.
No, that makes
Not
sense. That
everything
makes
needs to be
sense.
in blockchain.
Yeah, totally agree. What about gambling though? Is this like big part of your strategy as well? Because I mean, we all understand that gambling is pretty much is the essence of the smart contract, right? So you have two parties, and if you can automate their stakes or their gamble, that should become natural to use blockchain. But uh, so far, it doesn't look like it's taking off massively.
That's a great question, and yes, gambling is certainly an area that ThunderCore is also really focused on. Games as well as gambling. Gambling is a perfect use case. There are some games for which blockchain is very hard to implement. So poker, for example, is very
Right.
hard to do on a blockchain
Yeah.
because you don't want everything on the blockchain for poker. And so, I've seen implementations where some of it is centralized but only the results are decentralized. Or for example, um, so we're still kind of learning.
Mm.
Right now on ThunderCore, we have about 13 dApps, and three of them are actually gambling dApps. We have
Right.
a slot machine.
Hmm.
Um, we have a couple of games. We have a math game where you could bet each other and play against each other, and you could win Thunder tokens for the winner. So we have a number of games already on ThunderCore that are kind of gambling related, or where you compete with another player or
Right.
several players.
Right. Cool. Well, that's very interesting. Now, um, let's talk about the fundraising. The the story that is very sexy and very interesting for pretty much everybody in the community, right? So, the question number one is what is your recipe of success? The success of ThunderCore. You guys raised like a huge amount of money in the midst of very difficult market, where maybe some of the top projects actually struggling through trying to collect, the necessary amounts of money. I mean, Polkadot, Casper Labs, to name a few, huge guys with big names, but still sort of struggling in a way. So, what's the magic recipe?
That's a great question. I really don't know. Other than
That's a great answer.
Well, other than to say that I think Chris Wang's background in industry, as well as his very strong research background, and then partnering with Elaine Shi, who is just a very well-respected cryptographer, those two make such a great team. And in the last year, we've focused on just building. There's actually been very little marketing of ThunderCore until the last 2 months since I joined, and marketing or business development. But in the last 2 months, we've been very, very busy. And I think private investors saw that the background of Chris Wang, he's brought he sold Playdome to Disney, and so that
Yeah,
exit means a lot.
totally.
It creates a lot of credibility for him. And then Elaine she was the very first person to write a peer-reviewed article on the Bitcoin protocol back in 2011, and so those two create a lot of creative credibility and bring a lot to ThunderCore. I mean, they are the essence of ThunderCore, and I think people believe in the promise of ThunderCore, its uniqueness, but also really in the founders. It's a
Yeah.
really it's a big vote of confidence on both of them.
Right. No, that totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Can we talk about the IEO that's coming up on May 9th? Is that correct?
That's right.
Right.
Yes,
So
we are
what's yeah, yeah,
listed on Huobi on May
sorry,
9th.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. I mean, we are getting listed on Huobi on May 9th. They have a new program called Huobi Prime Lite, which is really Huobi Prime. And the Lite aspect is has to do more with how many tokens we are selling.
Oh, okay.
And it's less than what it would be for Prime.
Okay, I see. I see. So what's the reason for you know for the IEO, right? I mean, for like quite a well, most of the projects I would say IEO is either a marketing site for you know for the activities or the proper fundraising side, right? Where they're trying to raise you know a certain amount of money later on used for development of the project or market making, whatever else. So what's your story here?
So the story with, as you know, with most IEOs, the project wants to sell a small number of tokens or a small percentage of tokens from circulating to get the tokens into as many hands as possible.
Yep.
And also to create a lot of marketing buzz. And really IEO is a capital, you can look at it as a capital raising function, but it's really a marketing cost, to be honest with you. But a very good, I think, a well worth it kind of marketing cost, because there's a lot of marketing that goes behind it. Huobi is doing a lot of promotion for us. They've been a really great partner. And I think the actual IEO sale, we're selling a number of Thunder tokens for a low price that will allow a lot of investors to come in and be able to get their hands on Thunder tokens, and that's very positive for the network overall.
Right, right. No, that's very, very exciting. Totally. I mean, we've been tracking at least our community, across the Russian-speaking countries, and I must say that you guys are totally hot. I mean, it's we'll definitely be happy to see what's happening on the May 9th and support you as much as you can, because apparently it's there's not too many projects like you guys. It's exciting.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate the support.
All right, so we have a couple of minutes left, maybe for before we round up. If you allow me, I'll ask you a couple of what we call the blitz questions. The questions are very short, but you can answer them any way you like, either short or with a long answer as well. So, in your opinion, how many protocols will survive 10 years from now?
Wow, that's a great question. I fundamentally believe that we're still in a time where we need to collaborate with a lot of protocols and blockchains. I think that there's going to be many that will survive. I think those that focus on users, that focus on the kind of like the security and the decentralization of their blockchain, and making sure that there's a good, strong roadmap to decentralization, that they're focused on the needs of their users, I think those will survive. And I think there's going to be a number of those. I don't know how many, but...
Do you have a range in your head, or...?
No, I don't. Here, maybe I could share a quick story from Jeff Bezos.
Sure.
So I'm very, I'm a big fan of Amazon. Obviously, I was there, and the core values are in my blood.
Sure.
And Jeff Bezos always said that, there's going to be a lot of winners in this space. And he said that rather than looking at competitors, let's be focused on the user instead. And that's really been the focus. And so I want to bring the same thing to ThunderCore. We want to focus on the users. And I think if blockchains were to do that, there's going to be many that will survive. But those that choose to kind of compete, that's totally fine. In some way, we are competitors with each other. But rather than taking that worldview, let's focus on the user and their needs, and things will work out. I have no idea how many will survive. I'm guessing many will. I just don't know how many.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Thanks. Next one: public blockchain or private/corporate blockchains.
There's definitely a need. There's definitely a need for private blockchains, but I want to caveat that. If you are if you're a large enterprise, let's say in the defense space, you obviously don't want to be sharing every transaction for your missile supply chain with, and so let's be pragmatic. There's some cases where you want to be able to track the supply chain of, products, but there's some products for which you really want to keep secret. So I'm obviously in the public blockchain space, but I also understand that in the enterprise space, there's a need for privacy. So,
all right. So both then. Got it.
Both, yeah.
All right. 3 obstacles to mass adoption of blockchain.
Okay. I've thought a lot about this, and I think the number one obstacle, I think, is usability. Usability in the sense of, a non-crypto person, can they start using and can they start feeling good about their usage of anything crypto related? We know onboarding to crypto is still very, very hard. You have to get a wallet. You have to, enter in your 20-word mnemonic phrase.
Yeah, seed phrases are mad. Yeah.
It's difficult, right?
Can I tell you one story? Sorry, it's so funny. It's I think it was a year ago, so maybe less. I heard a story that a newcomer to the space was told to open a wallet, and apparently, marking down all the seed phrases which are in English. So what he did is he translated them into Russian so that he could memorize them. And so trying to sort of figure out what the whole idea was behind this whole thing. So, but yeah,
Wow.
I totally agree with you. So some of the things are just very, very cumbersome. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you bring a whole different layer to it, right? The different translation too. A lot of these mnemonic phrases, you're right, they're in English. And so it's not very sensitive to other cultures or languages. And
Yeah.
so usability certainly is I think the biggest obstacle.
All right. Cool. Ethereum or EOS?
Ethereum.
Okay. I won't push you for the explanations, but let's do it this way. All right. IEOs, ICOs, or public investment rounds?
IEOs.
Okay. Yeah.
I think. Yes, IEOs.
Okay. Now, 10 years from now, imagine that we have a conversation somewhere, maybe have a glass of water or something, and you look back and you say, all right, everything that we've planned, we've achieved everything. So life has been good. It's like we reached the top. How can you describe this situation? This final point.
Okay, so we have 50% of all games in the marketplace that require some element of a blockchain is built on ThunderCore. That would be very successful, where half of all games are built on ThunderCore, and that the developers are happy that it's easy to use ThunderCore. Even if you're the most junior developer to the most senior, that it's easy for junior developers to catch on, and it's also still challenging for very, very senior developers. And so we meet the needs of the entire spectrum of developer kind of needs. That the ecosystem is very engaged. You've got retail investors that are happy with their investment in ThunderCore. Developers are very happy with their experience with ThunderCore. Dapp developers are happy. I think ThunderCore as a platform where there's a lot of businesses built on it, would be a really great story to talk about in 10 years.
Cool. Yeah, half of the gaming market sounds massive. Well,
Yeah,
all
it's a
right,
big goal.
cool, cool. All right, so if we go along the same lines, what would be the three major resources for you to achieve this target faster?
Um, let's see. I'm very focused on kind of growing our developer ecosystem, and so that's why we're sponsoring ETH New York, ETH Boston, and ETH Waterloo. We'll be at Consensus next week. So greater access to developers and really spending a lot of time with developers is going to be one of my key areas of focus. So that's one. On the business development side, partnering with gaming studios as well as other studios that want to build a DApp on a blockchain that requires fast throughput, high scalability. Partnering with those studios is going to be another. And of course, we announced last week we launched an ambassador program recently, where we want to bring ThunderCore closer to the people. And so I want to be focused on spending a lot of time on local physical meetups. And that's going to be important for us, where ThunderCore isn't just this theoretical thing anymore, but in these local meetups, it's going to be workshop based, where our ambassadors will be conducting these workshops and helping developers in their local areas actually build something on ThunderCore. And so it's really those three areas. So focus on growing our developer ecosystem or developer network, partnering on the business development side with gaming studios, as well as DApp developers that have built their DApps on other blockchains, and also growing our ambassador network, bringing ThunderCore closer to the people. So those are going to be three areas that are going to be very a strong focus for me.
Okay, interesting. And probably the last one. Now, when you come on board with with teams to reach these very ambitious tasks, right? You cannot help but grow your team, right? Because it's impossible to actually build this whole thing, with a tiny team. So if you look at maybe at the task that you're trying to achieve, would you be capable of naming some of the legendary people that are still with us in the world, or probably that are already not with us, that you would be very happy to have in your team close by to make sure that again you achieve these targets much faster?
Do they have to be within the blockchain space, or just
Not
anyone?
necessarily. I mean, no. Could be
Wow.
JFK Kennedy. I mean, it could be whoever.
That's a tough one. I don't know. I definitely need a lot of help. You know what? I'm not going to name any names, but there are some people within the gaming space that we'd love to partner with. Some of the big influencers that have large audiences, that have a show on YouTube where millions of people watch them play games.
Wow.
That would be an interesting kind of partnership to have. I think that would be helpful and bring our brand closer to users of these games, which is going to be one of the key things that we really want to help DApp developers with, is acquire users. And that would be one aspect where that would be one strategy where partnering with some of these influencers would be really helpful for DApp developers. Other than that, I'd have to think more about that question. It's a great question.
All right. Well, hopefully, if we see each other next week in New York, then that you could throw a couple of names at me. That'll be interesting to see.
I will think about it and talk to you next week. That'll be great.
Cool. Well, thanks very much, Peter. It's been very exciting and very interesting conversation. I hope, I wish you guys all the best in actually 3 days, right? It's going to be a big day for those who didn't come on board with you. All the luck, the best of luck with this. And we'll definitely, try to help and support you guys as much as we can.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it, Oleg. This has been really fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a good time and see you around, I guess.
Okay, catch you later.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye bye.